Welcome to Andy Reads the Bible, where we're reading through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation in 1 year. I'm your host, Andy Brassfield, and today is January the 4th. I'll be reading Genesis 11, verse 10 through chapter 14, verse 12 from the Message translation. Genesis chapter 11, starting at verse 10. This is the story of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he had Arphaxad. It was 2 years after the flood. After he had Arphaxad, he lived 500 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Arphaxad was 35 years old, he had Shelah, or Shelah. After Arphaxad had Shelah, he lived 403 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he had Eber. After Shelah had Eber, he lived 403 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber was 34 years old, he had Peleg. After Eber had Peleg, he lived 430 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he had Reu. After he had Reu, he lived 209 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he had Serug. After Reu had Serug, he lived another 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he had Nahor. After Serug had Nahor, he lived 200 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he had Terah. After Nahor had Terah, he lived 119 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Terah was 70 years old, he had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. This is the story of Terah. Terah had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran had Lot. Haran died before his father Terah in the country of his family, Ur of the Chaldees. Abram and Nahor each got married. Abram's wife was Sarai. Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of his brother Haran. Haran had 2 daughters, Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was barren, she had no children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and set out with them from Ur of the Chaldees for the land of Canaan. But when they got as far as Haran, they settled down there. Terah lived 205 years. He died in Haran. Chapter 12. God told Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's home for a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation and bless you. I'll make you famous. You'll be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you. Those who curse you, I'll curse. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left, just as God said, and Lot left with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot with him, along with all the possessions and people they had gotten in Haran, and set out for the land of Canaan and arrived safe and sound. Abram passed through the country as far as Shechem and the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites occupied the land. God appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your children. Abram built an altar at the place God had appeared to him. He moved on from there to the hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent between Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. He built an altar there and prayed to God. Abram kept moving steadily, making his way south to the Negev. Then a famine came to the land. Abram went down to Egypt to live. It was a hard famine. As he drew near to Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, we both know you're a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they're going to say, 'Aha, that's his wife,' and kill me. But they'll let you live. Do me a favor. Tell them you're my sister. Because of you, they'll welcome me and let me live." When Abram arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians took one look and saw that his wife was stunningly beautiful. Pharaoh's princes raved over her to Pharaoh. She was taken to live with Pharaoh. Because of her, Abram got along very well. He accumulated sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men and women servants, and camels. But God hit Pharaoh hard because of Abram's wife Sarai. Everybody in the palace got seriously sick. Pharaoh called for Abram. "What's this you've done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she's your wife? Why did you say she's my sister so that I'd take her as my wife? Here's your wife back. Take her and get out." Pharaoh ordered his men to get Abram out of the country. They sent him and his wife and everything he owned on their way. Chapter 13. So Abram left Egypt and went back to the Negev, he and his wife and everything he owned, and Lot still with him. By now Abram was very rich, loaded with cattle and silver and gold. He moved on from the Negev, camping along the way to Bethel, the place he had set up first his tent between Bethel and Ai and built his first altar. Abram prayed there to God. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, was also rich in sheep and cattle and tents, but the land couldn't support both of them. They had too many possessions. They couldn't both live there. Quarrels broke out between Abram's shepherds and Lot's shepherds. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living on the land at that time. Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have fighting between us, between your shepherds and my shepherds. After all, we're family. Look around. Isn't there plenty of land out there? Let's separate. If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left." Lot looked. He saw the whole plain of the Jordan spread out, well watered. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Like God's garden, like Egypt, and stretching all the way to Zoar. Lot took the whole plain of the Jordan. Lot set out to the east. That's how they came to part company, uncle and nephew. Abram settled in Canaan. Lot settled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent near Sodom. The people of Sodom were evil, flagrant sinners against God. After Lot separated from him, God said to Abram, "Open your eyes, look around. Look north, south, east, and west. Everything you see, the whole land spread out before you, I will give to you and your children forever. I'll make your descendants like dust. Counting your descendants will be as impossible as counting the dust of the earth. So, on your feet, get moving. Walk through the country, its length, its breadth. I'm giving it all to you." Abram moved his tent. He went and settled by the oaks of Mamre in Hebron, or Hebron. There he built an altar to God. Genesis chapter 14. Then this, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, went off to war to fight Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemabar, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar. This second group of kings, the attacked, came together at the valley of Siddim, that is, the Salt Sea. They had been under the thumb of Chedorlaomer for 12 years. In the 13th year they revolted. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him set out and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in Sheva Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their hill country of Seir as far as El Paran, on the far edge of the desert. On their way back, they stopped in An-Mishpat, that is, Kadesh, and conquered the whole region of the Amalekites, as well as that of the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. That's when the kings of Sodom marched out with the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, that is Zor. They drew up in battle formation against their enemies in the valley of Siddim, against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. The valley of Siddim was full of tar pits. When the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, they fell into the tar pits, but the rest escaped into the mountains. The 4 kings captured all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, all their food and equipment, and went on their way. They captured Lot, Abraham's nephew, who was living in Sodom at the time, taking everything he owned with them. That concludes today's reading for January the 4th. As you can tell, I'm not schooled in the pronunciation of all the Old Testament Bible names. Well, there's probably some in the New Testament that I'm going to mess up. But I'm not going to edit this stuff out. I want my readings for you to be real and to just be me. I want you to know that I'm no different than you, and I'm not looking for perfection, but I'm probably repeating myself from day one, where I kind of said the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed today's reading, and we had some genealogy going on there in the beginning, and then the story of Abram and Sarai, where he lied about her being his sister instead of the truth, which was she was his wife. She was stunningly beautiful. Makes me think of my wife, Jill. And the thing is that he was afraid, and he thought he had to lie to save his life, to save his own life. But even after he lied, God stood up for him by making Pharaoh and everybody in the palace sick. And then Pharaoh connected the dots and said, it's because of this woman. And he gave her back. So I thought that was pretty cool. Today's episode is brought to you by Sugarwood Handyman. At Sugarwood Handyman, get your home repairs done. You got a honey-do list? Then Sugarwood Handyman can take care of your honey-do list. Small jobs, odd jobs, large jobs, and projects. Find out more by looking up Sugarwood Handyman on Facebook. Go to Facebook and in the search bar type Sugarwood Handyman. Thank you for listening to Andy Reads the Bible. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow.